In this video, I'm going to be talking about 3 movies that you need to see that are on the Criterion Channel. Hi everyone, my name is Robert Bellissimo. I am one half of the Coffee with Aliens at the Movies team, which is a film channel dedicated to film literacy as well as film reviews. I'm an actor and an acting teacher, and the films I want to talk about today are John Cassavetes' Shadows, Mike Leigh's Meantime, and Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage, which was both a 6-part miniseries as well as a feature film. Now, a lot of the time, filmmakers may think that they need bigger budgets. They may think that they need a lot of really fancy gadgets and tools and lighting equipment and better cameras. And I want to highlight what these directors did with so little and how little they even knew, particularly John Cassavetes with Shadows, his first feature film, as they were making these films. And I think there's a lot of issues these days with directors as well, not thinking that they're good enough writers. They're always waiting for the right script to come along. And so these films also, I think, will help you if you cannot write or don't think that you can write. So, first of all, in terms of the Criterion Channel, if you don't have it, you have to get it. I don't know what you're doing not having it to begin with. It is the greatest streaming service available right now. It is for film buffs, it's for cinephiles, it's for movie lovers, it's for directors, screenwriters, film historians, everything. It's got everything. And if you'll see my other Criterion Channel review, why it's the best streaming service video, I go into detail about why that is, and I will drop that link right above you up here that you'll see in a second. So, okay, let's have a look here. Let's start with John Cassavetes' Shadows. Now, Shadows was born out of a time of dissatisfaction. Cassavetes was working in the industry, working a lot on television. He started to teach acting, and after a while, a lot of the students became a little bored with the fact that they were going there doing scene after scene after scene. Sure, but they were learning a lot, but after a couple of years of this, they wanted something else. They felt they had got what they needed, and they felt that there was something else that they needed to get. So John one day saw an improvisation that struck him as, that would make an interesting story. So he invited some of the students to come and talk about this idea that he had. And the idea, of course, was to turn this improv about a black family who are also half white into a story. But, Cassavetes didn't, he had worked in film as an actor in theater. He didn't know how to write a script or how to make a movie, and he had this idea to fund movies based on people just sending $2 in. And he went on a radio show and asked for people to send in $1, and all this money came in. So they had this money to start a film. And John, of course, was influenced by the neo-realists, the Italian neo-realists, the post-World War Vittorio De Sica, Rossellini, making films on shoestring budgets, but from passion, from heart, from a story that needed to be told, with non-professionals, without any sets, just going and using real locations. And John was very influenced by that. Again, why it's so important to know film history and the things that you can do with so little. And so John went out and began to film this script. And he again, if you're not confident with writing, neither was John. And they improvised different scenes, and then John scripted those improvisations. And then sometimes he began to write scenes that he gave them to memorize and, of course, shoot like you would in a standard film. So it was a mix of these developing the script through improvisation as well as scripting scenes. And it's such a brilliant film, and the roughness, and you're out in the streets of New York, and sure, the quality is grainy, it's rough, the sound isn't great, because they didn't have these innovations came from the fact that they didn't have the money to go out and make this thing look like a Hollywood film. And people thought, wow, what an innovation, but that innovation came from a lack of funding. So here's the thing, as beautiful as one may want a film to look, you have to make that secondary to what is most important, and that's the story, that's the relationships, that's the actors in the frame. And John, being a great actor, knew how to also work with actors. He was working with actors, of course, who had studied with him, and this came out of a real communal effort. So that's what you want to go after. You want to get actors that you love to work with. You want to use them again and again, which Cassavetes did, Leigh did, Ingmar Bergman did, many other directors, and I think this will be very inspiring for you. And for anyone who has worked on set in the commercial field, a lot of the time it's a job. There's this department, that department, there's time, we got a role, there's a budget, and it doesn't feel like a community effort. It feels like a job to get done, to shoot the budget, get it over with, and let's all go home. And no one cares about anyone's input, and this is where everyone was involved. So even if you just have this experience once, it will change your life. So watch Shadows for that reason. Watch how great the acting is. Watch how innovative everything John did was in terms of the story. Of course, we're exploring black and white relationships, and this is before Martin Luther King, before the Civil Rights Movement, as that was just beginning in the late 1950s. And John was really, and the film is not all about that. It really is about being young and the masks that people wear, and they try to be what they're not, and explores those relationships and people grow. It's sort of a growing, coming-of-age story. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that. And even there's a great book by Ray Carney called Shadows, which is all about the making of this film, and I think it will really inspire you. And Cassavetes alone is an education within itself in order to learn about filmmaking and writing. So check that one out. It's on the Criterion Channel. The next one I want to talk about is Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage. Now again, this was on a shoestring budget, and Bergman at this point was a big director. But he couldn't get a lot of funding for this. People were a little concerned about the material. It was very raw, it was very messy, and he is not the case where he didn't know how to write. He knew how to write, and he wrote really, really good scripts. Again, someone from the theater, so he knew what was most important were the people in the frames. And that's not to take away from the beautiful cinematography in the film. He had a great DOP who really, these extreme close-ups, and you're right in there with the actor, and the cinematography is so good that it's like you want to touch the faces, you want to be in there with those people. And it's about this deteriorating marriage, but it's shot like a documentary. In Cassavetes did this as well, where the crew was reacting off of what the actors are doing. There's no marks, there's general blocking, and again, that is a real community effort. That is where everyone is involved. That's where everyone's creative input is involved. And I think that's crucial for anyone who wants to be a director, to really take everyone's advice who is involved and to make them care. And this is what Scenes from a Marriage and Shadows have. So this is a 6-part miniseries, and then it was also a feature film which went out into the theaters, and it was a huge hit, and it was a big part of the feminist movement as well, because the woman in the film began to grow from this marriage, and a lot of the troubles that she was having with her husband, she actually becomes stronger as a result. She grows to be independent and have other relationships, and to know what she wants, and to speak her mind, and to really communicate with her husband. And apparently the controversy was that in Sweden, at that time, a lot of the divorce rates went up. But that was because people learned that they can communicate and be real and say what they want. And often, Ingmar Bergman, Liv Ullmann, who is the great actress in that, the acting again is fantastic, and Liv Ullmann, people would go up to her and thank her for the performance, that she changed their life. Now what's better than when you can have that kind of an effect on people? So these are the kind of stories you want to tell that are universal, that strike a chord, that are relevant. So take it from an actor. There is nothing better than having a director who can see you, that can see your performance and is there for you and working off of what you're doing, instead of coming with something in their head that they want they want to see. They work off of what you're doing. And Mike Leigh was brilliant for that. And this story is about a family. This is during a recession, during in the 80s, when Margaret Thatcher was the prime minister, and at this time there was a lot of high unemployment, and the family are all collecting job seeking allowance. So they're getting this weekly or monthly money from the government, and it's not very much. And I lived in England, and I know what they get. It's very, very little if you're out of work and looking for a job, and the only person working is the mother. So this creates a lot of tension, and these are very cynical. They criticize each other, they put each other down, and eventually Tim Roth plays this very shy younger brother, lost soul, and it's a very hostile. And of course, the film asks questions. Why are they treating themselves this way? Why are they so unemployed? Why can't they find work? What's going on in the politics that this is the case? Now, of course, this isn't directly addressed, but it like a true work of art, asking questions and making the audience think about that. But what ends up happening is he gets a job offer from a wealthy aunt to go and clean his house. This is the Tim Roth character. And the other brother gets jealous and shows up on his first day of work and tries to take his job from him. So as Tim Roth, sort of stands up for himself through this ordeal, it actually brings the brothers together. And there is hope in the sense that there is love there, and the other brothers begin to form a respect for each other. And I think the brother regrets showing up and trying to hijack his job. So it's a great film. The acting is terrific. But again, Mike Leigh used the actors, had an idea, had an outline, and would then tell the actors their ideas. Okay, this is what's happening, now improvise it. So they would improvise the scenes, and he would take the improvisations and he would script it, and that would be the story. Then the actors would take it and go out and memorize. So again, if you are better with coming up with ideas and outlines, but not very good with dialogue, this is something you can do. And actors love to do this stuff. This is why it's so important, I think, for directors who know what actors do, because they love to come up with dialogue, they love to improvise, they love to contribute to the story and feel that they're as important as you are, as the directors or the screenwriters. So again, use actors. It will serve you. And look at the films of Mike Leigh. They're unforgettable. They're some of the greatest films that ever came out of the UK film industry. And this is a film that you have to see. It's absolutely incredible. And again, born out of improvisations that were then scripted. So that is something else that I think will help you. But anyways, I hope that this has served you today and you've gotten some great tips from experiences I've had. And again, a lot of these things I learned either as an actor and participating and trying to find these kind of projects myself, but it came from film literacy, from knowing film history, from watching a lot of films. And the Criterion Channel is an education within itself. So get it. There's a 2-week free trial and it's only $10 a month. I highly recommend it. Please go out there and get it. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I will see you next time. Take care.